Yo, B, let's go.
You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. I'm Julian here with my co-host B, and today we're going to be talking about modern monetary theory. I have to say it slow because I keep jacking up the title. Modern monetary theory, also known as MMT. So you'll probably hear me saying that. It's going to be a fun one, a newer concept, macroeconomic concept that we've put a little work into looking up. So we're excited to talk about it and kind of discuss this one. For those that have, been with us here at Rebel Wisdom Podcast for a little bit, I'm interested to know what you think, what you hear differently, what you see differently. I actually just got a new phone, so I'm using that. So we got a little camera upgrade, and then B got a new mic, as you can see, putting me to shame. He got the mic upgrade. So hopefully our audio and visuals are on the rise here. We're trying to do a little better on our end, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. Following the episode. So with that, B, you got anything you want to open up with regarding the topic? If not, I was going to jump it off with definition.
Yeah, no, I'm excited because MMT I think became really popular after the COVID thing and the whole stimulus package and whatnot. But yeah, it's like a hot topic in macroeconomics today,
Yeah.
and you cannot talk about economics without talking about MMT today. So
Heck yeah. Dope. Okay. Let's get into it. Modern monetary theory. That's probably the last time I say that fully. All right. It is an economic framework that explains how money is created and used by governments with sovereign currencies. It challenges traditional economic views on taxation, borrowing, inflation control. So, I mean, inherently, this topic is just aligns with our brand and rebelling traditional wisdom or how things are done, because it in its existence, this theory like goes against traditional, right, like macroeconomic policies. So I mean, what better platform than to talk about it here? So I don't know, I think that's kind of cool. So that's it in a nutshell. This was certainly a hard topic for me to kind of grasp, so as we do, we're going to dive into it. But it's like pretty nuanced, but it's cool because it talks about some like not so nuanced things, like simply like what is money in today, like that's a part of it, which like the modern money maybe there might be like a slight misconception or misunderstanding, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And I want to start by just bringing out that piece where it says the first sentence is that MMT is an economic framework that explains how money is created and used by governments with sovereign currencies. So like the sovereign currencies piece, I understand that to be, a country that kind of creates its own money, maybe has its own central bank, and it alludes to that fiat currency, which we've talked about before on some other episodes, but that the country itself kind of creates. And this really, MMT really only, this theory only, I don't know if I'll say exists or is relevant for countries that have their own sovereign currency and, maybe like print their own currencies, i.e. America or like a Japan or something like that, right? You got anything to add to that, B?
yeah, so like a big currency that MMT doesn't apply will be like the euro,
Perfect.
because like for example, the countries of users of the euro doesn't have overall control of the euro, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like we have control, not me and you, but
Yeah,
like
but
the United States has
as a whole.
control of the dollar. The Fed prints buttons on a keyboard and then we print it. And
Right.
the British pound, the same thing. Japanese yen, same thing. But then euro, France just cannot go type in a keyboard to print more euro. It's prohibited.
Mm-hmm.
So MMT would not apply there. So that's a easy, that's a way to think about it.
Facts. Yeah. If I did control the currency, boy, for every episode, we be flying out meeting. We would have our own dedicated studio. We both have the good mics, both have the good cameras. Man, that would be dope. But yeah, we don't. So here we are working our way up. Yeah, and to like elaborate on that and kind of go into the modern money piece, a reason I think modern monetary theory exists is because we've gotten away from the gold standard, because it's not physically like backed by gold, and it can just be printed, especially in these countries like America, that allows space for MMT to exist. So I think mentioning that as like a foundational kind of piece of this, I just wanted to bring that up early because I kind of mentioned the fundamental understanding of money, and a lot of people know like gold is still around, right? But whereas historically, if you go to the bank and you want to borrow money, they had to have that amount at the bank to like lend it out. Whereas now that is not the case. And I know there's some like theories floating around on what that's called. I recently watched something where a guy referred to it as double bookkeeping. I don't know if that's like a technical term or
Yeah,
not.
so the technical term that where we don't have to use that anymore is the fractional reserve banking.
Yes, 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 yes. Definitely heard. Yes,
Yeah,
perfect.
which I know we talked about. I know we talked about it before, but what I recently found out more about while doing this research, dude, it was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Like I knew that. So the Fed sets the fractional banking reserve like
Limit or
rate,
rate? Yeah,
and
rate.
then right now it's at 10%, right? So
Okay.
in the example in previous podcasts, we said, "Hey, Julian, you're the bank. I'm the user of your bank. I have $100, and I give you a deposit 100, so you owe me 100.
Have to keep at
Uh,
least $10, right?
yeah, you have to keep
Yeah.
10%,
Yep.
$10,
Yep.
but you can lend out the 90." Cause there's a couple things I found. So if you divide the first transaction of the loan divided by the rate. So the first transaction alone would be like not the 100, but then the first 10% subtracted. So the $90 divided by 10,
Mm-hmm.
10% will be $900, right?
Okay.
So
So divided by 10%. Okay.
yeah, so you given the 10%, each $100 that you deposit becomes $900. If you keep repeating the cycle of 90 to
Okay.
81 to whatever the
Yeah.
90% of 81 is 90%.
Yeah.
If you do the infant if you keep doing it, basically it comes out to $900. So we create from a single $100 bill, we create $900 in circulation to the economy, which I was like, okay, wow, like that's a lot more than I thought.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, like when the bank lends out money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I feel so. I don't know. I don't think this is common knowledge, so I'm gonna explain it. But then I
That's
was
what we
just
hear.
like,
It's just nice to talk and like
yeah,
kind of
I
figure
was
it out.
just dumbfounded when I heard this. But I know that banks were allowed to lend money from that $100, right?
Right, right,
But
right.
then I literally thought in my head they would basically not exactly, but like take that $100 and take the 90 of it and lend it out to someone. I guess that's not what happens.
Wait, say. Oh, so you're saying like somebody gives 100 and then like they just like you said take 90 of the 100
And
and
then
they
go
can lend
lend it
that.
out. I thought that's what
Yeah.
happens, but
Right.
apparently what actually happened is they keep the full 100 and they just print $90 at the bank
Oh yeah.
electronically.
I didn't know. Yeah. What?
They just create $90
So
out of thin
they're
air
yeah.
and they just loan that newly created $90 out.
I did not know that.
And it goes back to what you were saying, the asset and the liabilities, the zero sum bookkeeping,
Mm-hmm.
because and it works because the bank, when they lend it out, they created an asset of $90, right?
Yeah.
But then you can't just create
You.
$90 without being a Federal Reserve. But then it's okay because um, on the other hand of the receiver,
Mm-hmm.
they have the $90 physically, but
Right.
then
They
is a
actually.
liability to the bank.
Yes.
So that kind of
Yeah.
cancels out to zero. So that's why they're allowed to literally print money at the bank.
It's it's
And then
wild.
as the user pays back the money, the principal gets canceled out each month. So ultimately, at the end
It
of the loan term, it goes to zero. So
zero sum.
no new money was created. Bank just pocketed the interest that was paid to, that's their whole business model.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just so shocked that they can just literally print, like, credit your account. Like, just like,
Just
yeah, just
right.
electronic money.
Right. Which is why money now is like largely, I mean, digital
Yeah.
because yeah, in the one video I was watching, the dude, it might have been oversimplification, but he was just trying to break it down and he was like, dude, modern banking is like if you had some master spreadsheet and when transactions happen, you're just modifying numbers in like all these cells. And it's like when you kind of just dumb it down and simplify like that's like that's insane to kind of think about. But I
Yeah.
mean, you just gave a really good um quick brief explanation that it is mind-blowing. And I think this is such a that's why I think MMT is interesting because it's both simple and complex, like how just like slightly manipulate money, but all the effects in the transactions and like kind of just you just explain like how the bank actually works and stuff. I think is kind of fascinating. I don't know.
So what I know you gave a definition, but can you explain to me the theory behind MMT? Like, what are they trying to say?
Okay, so how I get it, and this is funny too because um like we were talking about in preparing for this, right? It's MMT, modern monetary theory, and we're talking about it's a theory, so it's a theory that works or that came about, like you said, post COVID, because with the realization of how money works, I guess, or
Well,
circulates on
it's been around since 1930,
okay.
but it wasn't
It's
really
like it
taken
came
seriously, I
popularized.
guess.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But
yeah.
then it became really big during the
Right.
COVID, right before COVID, around there.
Right, right. Um, and we were talking because, one of the videos I was watching, the guy was harping on how this is it's not a policy, right? It's not something to be enacted, to, and that's a good point. Are we to, um, kind of, well, it's basically not something to be, it's not something to be enacted to help like the macro economy, I guess, but it's a theory that, as to quote you, like you can kind of like lean towards this. It's
Mhm.
something you want a state, I guess, you want to like work towards. Which I was having a trouble conceptualizing because I was like, I feel like there are things that have to be in place for this theory to be achieved. But that's not necessarily the case, which we can also get into as well. So it's a way to, I guess MMT could be a way to control inflation through taxation. Would you say that's a
Here, let me take a crack at it.
yeah?
So MMT is basically this idea that, given, Julian covered this earlier, given the country with sovereign currencies,
Mm-hmm.
you can print away your problems forever. That's the basics of MMT. So we have the Fed on the government side. We work together and we say, hey, like one of the examples would be, we talked about social security program. That's
In this
one of the
episode a while
biggest
ago,
pyramid
yeah.
schemes ever created on Earth. And we know, government knows, unless something changes, we're gonna run out of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we run out of money, or before we run out of money, how about
Ideally.
we just print away enough money so it never runs out of money? That's the premises of MMT. And to go into what Julian was talking about with the inflation piece, like you say, we talk about, okay, let's print, print, print. The first thing that people are going to think about is, okay,
Is
if you
inflation.
print so much money, what about inflation?
Right.
And MMT actually does go in very heavily into how to control inflation. And that's the piece that Julian was talking about. And it's most the inflation control so right now, how we control inflation is through fiscal and monetary
Right.
policy,
That's
which
what I want to get to. Yeah.
the monetary policy is through the Federal Reserve. So they primarily control the interest rate, and that's how and then they have a dual mandate, right? Fed has a dual mandate to control inflation and keep unemployment at sufficient level. They don't want to say we don't want to say zero unemployment, because if something breaks, it
No.
comes.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, there's no room to mess around at
Mhm.
0%. But so Fed has a piece in controlling inflation. Also, the government, that's the fiscal policy. They have a they have interest in controlling inflation, and then they control inflation by, like, working on the supply chain, working on the demand and the demand side as well,
Mhm.
and basically with the MMT framework, we kind of get rid of the monetary policy side, and a lot of, I guess, MMTers, they kind of claim that, hey, we should be able to just keep monetary policy out of this, at 0%. So drop the Fed's funds rate to 0%. Right, right now it's at, like, what, 4.75
For
or something.
yeah. For something.
So keep that at zero, and then the only way to control inflation is through taxation,
Mhm.
through fiscal policy. So, for example, like, if inflation is going crazy, like how it did from 2020 to 2023, 2024, we just simply raise taxes by a lot. So you take the purchasing power out of the private sector and then wash it away. But at
Mhm.
some point, if inflation comes down too low, like, we don't want to go into deflation, because
Yeah.
that's a whole nother story, and then goes into a bad spiral. We never want deflation.
Yeah.
So before we get to that, we will lower taxes so we have more money to spend to stimulate the
Stimulate.
economy. And this is a different way of thinking, because previously, or I guess, this is a rebel point, right? It's been like this for a while, but then, at least from, I'm guessing, we'll say millennials and up,
Okay.
right? Like, we've, at least somewhere in our public education system, we're told that, like, taxes pay for the
Pay for,
government spending,
yes,
right?
like it supports government spending. Yes.
But with the MMT, that
It
doesn't. I
does.
mean, we can print unlimited money, so we don't
Right.
need it. We don't need taxes to fund government spending.
And that's why I guess it's not even MMT, because like we literally do that now. It's not a theory. Like
No, you're right. You're
we
right.
can
Yeah,
do that. Yeah.
because we still run on a deficit. So
Yeah.
no, but then the difference is, some of the taxes still do pay for our government.
Sure.
Not, but with MMT, they're saying we don't need
We
taxes at all. Keep, if it need to be, keep income taxes at zero. But that's inflationary,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And I do want to cover the inflation piece that, just kind of, while I was talking about, this video, or doing this research on the
Hmm.
MMT thing, kind of came about. And I, there's another rebelling point, and I'm just stating what the viewpoint from the MMT side. This is not the belief of mine, or not the belief of Jillian's, but I just want to talk about it, and then we'll talk about that further into detail.
Hmm.
But a lot of people, I know you've heard this too. They say, if they print money, it'll cause inflation, right? You
Yeah.
heard that before.
Yes.
But that's not necessarily true.
Hmm.
So let's say, for example, the Fed prints $1 trillion, right? So the public would say that's inflationary, right?
Yes.
But what if that $1 trillion went to your bank account directly? You, Julian's bank account directly, you have $1 trillion credited into your savings account.
Yeah.
And let's say you can't spend that money for 10 years, right?
Hmm.
Is that $1 trillion inflationary?
No.
It's not, right?
In
Because
this
the
life.
money,
Eh,
even though it was created, it
yeah.
hasn't gone
It's not in
into the
circulation. I
the
feel like.
economy. It
Yes.
hasn't affected the supply and demand side
Hmm.
with that $1 trillion.
Hmm.
So just printing money is not inflationary. just to
That's a
keep that
good
clear.
distinction. Yeah, on like a technicality. Right.
Right. And the second thing I learned when you go a little bit deeper, they say, okay, printing money is not inflationary, but when the M2 money supply increases, that's inflationary. So the M2 money supply tracks the velocity of money.
I haven't heard
Uh,
that term in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, like let's say Julian and I exchange $1 a day, and let's say we can put a baseline of a 1 on the M2 money scale, $1 a day. But let's say tomorrow we change dollars once and also twice.
Mhm.
And then now we'll say on the M2 money scale, that's a 2. So money, the transition of the velocity of money increased, right? Or doubled in
Mhm.
this case. That's inflationary. And that's more in line of what actually happens.
Yeah.
But that's not
That's good.
necessarily true either. From an MMT standpoint,
Hmm.
I'm in lines of the M2 money velocity increasing equals inflation. I'm
That's
on
what you
that
said. Like
boat.
that's your personal
Yeah,
belief.
I'm on that boat.
Okay.
But MMTer says, okay, this is where it gets super confusing. Let's say we're gonna only look at one item because looking at the whole macro thing
Yeah.
on
You.
a podcast with 2 people is impossible, right? You just bought a new iPhone, so we'll talk about an iPhone,
Yes.
right?
Perfect. Yes.
So if if Apple has a capacity to make 1 million iPhones
Mm-hmm.
a year, that's the max capacity it has. And the base price is set. And let's say the public is able to buy up to 900,000 units of the iPhones Apple is able to create, right? So right now in this example, we have 100,000 units of excessive iPhones that's not necessarily getting sold within that 1 year period,
Okay.
right?
Because you said they
1
made
million
1 million,
Apple
and we
creates
have
1 million a
the
year,
capacity to buy.
and
How
then
much is it?
an overall demand for that
Oh, the demand. Yeah.
iPhone is 900,000.
Perfect. Okay.
So there's a delta of 100,000 on
100,000
the
left. Yep.
supply side, right?
Yep.
So if government comes in and prints a lot of money and then gives you the trillion dollars in your bank account,
Yeah.
but they say, "Hey, you can spend this money to buy 100,000 iPhones and
Yeah.
that's it." Okay? So you go buy 100,000 iPhones, that is not inflationary. It sounds like that's like I was like, "What? How is that not inflationary?" It's not inflationary because at that
It's-
point, supply and demand is a
Is
perfect equilibrium. So even if something breaks, sure, it's going to be if inflationary goes on. But just
yeah.
bear with me for this example, it is not inflationary yet.
Yes. Okay.
Where so that's what MMT is saying. As long as we print money, but our efficiencies of like work are through reducing unemployment and increasing capacity on the supply side, because when you print money, it creates demand
Demand's gonna go up.
because money
Correct.
becomes cheaper.
Yes.
So
Devalue. Yes.
because demand goes up and supply stays the
Supply.
same,
Yeah.
that's why inflation happens.
Yes.
But if
Hmm.
we can keep the supply up in in uh in relation to the demand, it'll never be inflationary.
Right. So keep the supply up, or like, well, I mean, you kind. I'm just trying to get a better understanding what you're saying, or proportionately increase supply with them, because, like you said, demand is going to increase
Yeah.
if you
So
flood the economy.
either
So
way, yeah,
okay.
you want the supply up.
Yeah.
So because right, because when supply goes up with everything being stagnant, prices come down, but then at the same time you're pushing the demand up on the money side.
Yeah.
So as long as it's at an equal,
Right.
it money inflation, it's not inflationary, which
Yes.
it was like it was hard for me to understand at first, but that is true. It does
I
all
didn't even
come
get.
down to supply and demand. So apply that to all sectors, right? Like one of the things that they
Hmm.
talk about is like healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
We have a I mean, everyone knows American healthcare is very good in terms of the
Of
skills
this,
of
right,
what we
right,
can
right.
do.
Quality of the
But
healthcare.
on
Yes.
the quality is good.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the other side, you have to pay for it. It's
Accessibility.
notorious for being
Yeah,
so freaking expensive.
yeah,
While look at like Britain, right? Great Britain. They have I mean, not as good quality uh, medical
healthcare.
care as the United
Right.
States, but still pretty good. A first world country, pretty
Yeah.
advanced. But they have a universal healthcare system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like where pretty much everyone can go get healthcare,
Right.
but they have to pay for it in wait times.
Yeah.
I heard it's like it takes
Which is
forever to like just
right.
schedule
So
something.
right. It's like
So
lesser of two evils. Which one do you want? Yeah.
right, but at least in the United States, how do you bring the cost of these like services down?
Down.
Is you produce more doctors and more nurses, more hospitals. And if the hospital is like, because there's so many hospitals and doctors created, if they're not getting that many patients, the prices are going to go down
Down.
to attract more patients, right?
Yeah.
So that's what the MMT
Hmm.
believers say. Like, hey, let's print
Okay.
this money. Let's create a lot of doctors,
Yeah.
create a lot of nurses, create a lot of infrastructure to support, the good,
Yeah.
like where we're lacking, and that it'll never be inflationary. So that's the sorry, it took a long time to explain it,
No,
but that's the
that's
basis of
beautiful.
how they control inflation on top of what we talked about through increasing and decreasing taxes.
That's perfect. And I'm going back to the definition where it says the second part of the definition, we used, where it says it challenges traditional economic views on taxation, borrowing, and inflation control. So that kind of touched on everything you just laid out. How inflation, how you can actually kind of control it, and it may not be as an inflationary printing the, I guess, excess, or I don't want to say infinite printing of money, but you get it. Like the excess of
Mhm.
printing of money may not be as inflationary as we think. And we even talked about taxation as well, how that may affect us in taxes. But like, what is that? But there's also the borrowing piece too. And I'm trying to. I don't. Did you have any
Borrow in terms of
takeaways?
what?
Just like how you borrow loans.
At the
Um,
personal level?
yeah, sure, at the personal level.
Personal level,
I don't
I
think we.
mean, that would go down because, well, with
Well,
full implementation of MMT, again, oh man, I mean, you
which
can't
is
fully
that's
implement
what I was gonna
MMT.
say.
Okay,
You
yeah,
see how it's
but
confusing?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah. So
The more the government goes on the MMT believer side,
right.
one of the things they say is through monetary policy, they want to keep that low, right? So
Keep
if
what low?
monetary policy.
Oh, okay.
So if the Fed brings their funds rate to
They
zero,
yes.
that affects the lending percentages, like credit card APRs,
True.
auto
Yeah.
loans.
Okay. Yep.
So I guess on the personal loan
You would feel that. Okay.
sector,
Yeah.
it would cost of borrowing would be cheaper.
Yeah.
Then actually,
You know.
that's a good segue because I do want to bring this up. So one of the things we talked about is they want to keep the monetary policy low and
Yes.
unaffected,
Yeah.
right?
That's like a constant in this theory.
Right.
Yes.
But I kind of see some problem with that because we gotta kind of understand that with monetary policy, there's things that are affected by a lot, and there's things that are barely affected. For example, we just talked about a cost of borrowing is cheaper.
Right.
So you can think about, soon as cost of borrowing gets cheaper, like what gets affected? Can you give
Yeah.
me a couple?
People are gonna borrow more. Yeah. Like you might have more credit cards or um housing, real estate.
Okay. So mortgage,
Yeah.
mortgage application
Yeah, for
increases.
sure, for sure.
Housing demand
Anything,
increases.
yeah,
That that
cars, yeah.
that pushes the real estate prices up.
Oh, yep.
Which, I mean, if you're holder of real estate, you'll be happy.
You'll be,
But
yes.
then for the non-holders trying to buy their
That
first
could,
home, it might be more and more.
exactly,
It might be much harder to do, right?
exactly.
Also, the car space. The cars is gonna get expensive because most of the
Thank you.
cars are financed. Um, they do a lot of the VC firms is another example I read. Like all the like the
Mhm,
startup that's trying to grow rapidly, they
mhm.
pretty much finance a lot of it, and it's grow, grow, grow,
See,
grow,
this,
grow.
yes,
That becomes cheaper,
yeah.
so that's gonna see a lot of activity in the space.
Start right,
But
right.
let's think about it on the opposite side. What are some things that's not going to get affected with
Which,
monetary policy?
uh, with the rates being low,
You're
even,
in that sector right now.
oh yeah, government,
Yeah. So
military.
here, I mean, I not to make you, yeah, I don't want to make you feel bad. I have it pulled up in front of me, so I know the
Yeah,
answers.
I'm not gonna feel bad.
But like you can think about like defense is one of the things that's not going to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
affected
yeah,
by
yeah, yeah,
monetary policy
for
because
sure.
like we need like regardless of interest rates are at ten thousand
Certain
percent
things you're
or
gonna,
zero
yeah, yeah,
percent,
yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah.
still gonna have money into defense, right?
Facts.
We are gonna have consumer staples not getting affected, which is like
Yeah, what's that?
grocery stores,
Oh,
like
okay, okay, okay.
beverages. Like that's not gonna really change that much, right?
Got you.
And also think about like utilities companies, like Fed increased the rates to 5.25% last year, right?
Yeah.
Does that affect your electricity bill
Yeah, you
spending?
still
No,
got.
not really, right?
Okay,
Um,
yeah,
so there are sectors, and there's
sure.
many sectors that's affected and not affected. Not I don't say affected or not affected, more affected and less affected with monetary policy. So with the MMT way of just saying, "Hey, let's just ignore the monetary policy side,"
Hmm.
it's I could see problems, I guess.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I could too. Yeah, I have
'Cause
another thought.
we have 2 different levers to control these things,
Mm-hmm.
which is the monetary lever
Monetary
and the
and
fiscal
fiscal.
lever, and they have their own job,
Right.
right? So if you listen to the I don't do you listen to the Jerome Powell speeches?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't catch every single one of them, so I listen to them, like, often enough
Mm-hmm.
to say they say, "Hey, we're not lowering rates because what the issues that we're seeing, we can't solve monetarily. Has to be on the fiscal side to solve
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're gonna do this." Like I have heard them say that a couple times.
Okay. So you think that, and I mean, there's probably things opposite where like the fiscal lever, as you said, so like wouldn't you wouldn't be able to manipulate that whatever policy, so you'd have to utilize that other lever. But
Yeah.
if MMT is suggesting that you keep that the same, I feel, yeah, there might be some fallout that I mean I can't predict right now, but um we just wouldn't know. And I want to go back to the how we said the excess printing of money is going to increase demand, right? Like you have more money,
Hmm.
um and then how we said, which I didn't realize, but like if you keep the supply proportionate, the inflationary effect might not be as much. Got it. But then we just addressed the borrowing side, right? And if those rates are held or relatively lower, I guess borrowing is going up. I feel like you would have that would also contribute to, like we said, more spending, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people getting more cars
Yeah.
and stuff. So now the taxation piece is only to manipulate the inflationary piece, but the printing of money is going to go up and the borrowing is going to go up. So that's like I don't know, like a double effect. You know what I mean? So would it still end up being inflationary? I guess, or is the supply manipulated? I'm asking these questions just out, not necessarily to you, but it's just like this is like what I'm thinking. I mean, I guess the rise in supply could also negate not only the more spending, but the borrowing as well, because those are both going to affect spending.
No, that's so. This is,
So it's like,
dude. I
yeah.
think that's such an important point that you bring up. It's like so, these macroeconomics topics, anything money, like it sounds complicated, right? But then when you look deep down inside it, similar to personal finance, we can talk about
Yep.
all these super high technical things with personal finance,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, you spend less than you make.
Yeah.
That's the basis of personal finance, right? Like
Yeah.
that doesn't take a genius to understand that.
Right.
And I think that your gut feeling is telling you that, hey, like I see some flaws into this idea of thinking. And that's where like the or opposers of MMTs are coming from. And I tend to I like the MMT idea. It is a cool idea, the way to think about how money works in the modern day.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah.
But I'm on the same page. I'm leaning more towards your side than the MMTer side because I also have a gut feeling that was like, I just it sounds
Yeah.
cool, but it doesn't sound right. And I was kind of thinking about that. But why doesn't it sound right, right?
That's the question. Exactly.
But
Why doesn't it?
I'm thinking about it, and this is my own opinion. Looking into MMT, in theory, by how they lay it out, I do think it does work. I
Mhm.
really do. But we bring in real life. And real life isn't theoretical and it's not perfect. You
Exactly.
can't, right?
Exactly.
Like okay, think about it. Yeah. So I think the printing of the money side we can easily control.
Mhm.
The bigger we print, the more like the faster effects that we're gonna see, right? But
Yes.
think about it like, and they say, hey, we're gonna keep the supply side in relationship, in step with the demand side.
Exactly.
But how hard? Like, I would think the supply side is much harder to control
Well, I was
than the
just about to
demand
say,
side.
100%.
Yeah. So
100%.
soon as we say we understand how to do
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
but if the supply side falls behind because we created all this stuff, like I don't think that by the time we're doing taxes, like by the time we realize it, it's too late. Right. And it is gonna be
Yeah, and you
inflationary.
can't catch. Right.
So I mean, like, look at the
Yeah, dude.
okay, I think this is another good segue into that whole supply and demand side. Is like during COVID, right?
Mhm.
Um, we dropped the federal funds rate to zero immediately,
Yep.
and then went crazy with the quantitative easing,
Mhm.
and then printed trillions and
Yep.
trillions and trillions of dollars. So I mean, you don't it doesn't take a genius to understand the demand is going to go up,
Yeah. Straight up.
especially with those stimulus checks,
Man, yeah, the stimmies.
right? And then we created like a everything bubble. I mean, like everything bubble was like pretty much brewing since 2010, but that like, pushed it up even further.
Mhm.
And on top of that, this is one of the things that didn't follow the MMT approach is MMT want full employment, right? Or close to full employment as possible.
Okay.
And then what did COVID do? He's like,
Yeah, it was
stay
literally.
inside,
Yeah.
don't work. If you're asymptomatic but you
Yeah.
still have COVID, like isolate yourself for 21 days, don't leave, just
Yeah.
hang out, get paid. And of course that's gonna be. And then on so that in itself is gonna be inflationary because dude, I was so freaking bored out of my mind in my room.
Yeah.
And what do?
Just start
You
buying
just
stuff.
yeah, you just start buying stupid stuff. That just that's just human nature.
Oh my god.
And from there, on top of that, because people aren't working, like it just ruined the supply chain side around the
Mhm.
world. And when supply goes down, demand goes up. That created
Snaps.
inflation like
Yeah.
crazy. And
Yeah.
now, we had. like 9 what did it peak out at? Like 9.2 9.1% or something like that.
Yeah. I don't
And then everyone knew it was it wasn't a good time, right? Everything just got super
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
But it is funny though, the we the during the COVID like stimulus times, like that kind of follow the MMT, I guess, guidelines. And then
Int- okay, from the standpoint of like printing money,
yeah.
and yeah, I get that. But on that note, it's like you said, it's good to draw from that from an example, but it was also like COVID itself was a huge I don't know, market stimulus, but like that was a anomaly that
Yeah.
mass people not working in that quantity. So it was cool from like an experimental standpoint to kind of see. But if we implemented MMT again, I say implement, but it's there. Like if we
Go you chase more of it,
yeah,
take more of the
shift
MMT
towards
pill.
an MMT mindset, excuse me. Um in a normal, I guess, like stable this economy, I think it would be different because, like I said, COVID was a drastic anomaly. So it's although you got to utilize like we got to see some of those things we would see in a more MMT leaning environment. I'm just stating it's not like a perfect comparison because yeah, I don't think you're
Yeah,
gonna have
you're right.
masses of people not working, which is incredibly ironic given what's going on now and like massive job loss. But
Yeah, no, you're right. And then that's why it's still I mean, I say still. I don't know if it'll ever be not a theory, but that's why it's a
yeah,
theory. But no, dude, I agree with you. Um, we haven't seen the full effects of
mm-hmm.
MMT because COVID was that, once in a hundred
Yeah,
year
yeah,
thing. And that
yeah.
also, brought on outside factors that we couldn't truly test MMT. But you said, okay, so but we don't, I mean, we still have, I guess, COVID, but like, we're not getting, the world isn't being dictated by COVID anymore.
Right, right.
What do you think, like, if we took the full, you know, you have a bottle of the MMT pill, and the government was like, let's just take all of it. So we took it. We went full MMT. Like, do you think it would work? Like, would it be better? Better as in print more money and inflation isn't that big of a deal, or what do you think?
And see, that's where I kind of agree. I see what you were saying earlier when you're like, you also see from the MMT enthusiasts in theory, right? Like printing the more money, because I think I would say it's a common narrative. You print more money, it devalues the dollar, inflation goes up. Got it. But under this context, you supplement that inflation, like we were saying, with the supply. So I don't. So are you asking? Do I think it would work? Is that the question?
Do you think it would work better or as intended? Like, you're not gonna have zero
Ah, okay,
inflation, right?
right. Yes,
And we
yes.
don't want zero inflation, but
And based on our definite, like I think we could. I feel like it wouldn't. I feel like it wouldn't work as intended. I'm thinking.
what's gonna break in just the inflation piece?
I don't. I don't think. Because there's so many. I don't think. I feel like we can't. We're not going to be able to manipulate supply as much as like we would need to for demand. Now,
Mhm.
whether that means inflation breaks or taxation, it would be like outrageous taxes, or because people also don't like the sense of more taxes. But you have to think
Yeah.
there's always give and take, right? So people hear more taxes, like, oh my god, I don't want to get taxed more. But you have to think interest rates are getting lower too. So there's give and take. Like taxation is bad, cool, but you have lower interest rates, like we said. I don't want to get too redundant, which allows you to do different things. And the low interest rate under MMT, that promotes investing and that equality in some ways because interest rates for some people are a barrier, like to doing certain things.
Mhm.
So again, taxes bad, low interest rate, good, depending on how you look at it. But I just don't think with the flooding of the flooding of extra money in the economy, and how we said the spending due to increased borrowing as well, either taxation is going to go to a point that's like not really sustainable, or demand is going to surpass supply, which I guess that would break inflation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I like to think inflation wouldn't break, since it calls out, like, it has uh, a way to counteract inflation, right? Like it states it, but I feel like that's with an asterisk, like up to a certain amount. Like if it becomes too much, I don't know, on a macro level, like I
A
think
lot of
some
the MMTers, they bring up Japan as their, favorite example because and Japan's been like this where they're trying to fight deflation. We're trying to fight inflation,
mm-hmm,
but they're trying to fight deflation.
mm-hmm,
And you I'm sure you heard the news, uh, maybe like middle of 2024, maybe like later 2024, where, Japan has kept their interest rates low and even negative for a very long time
yeah, it was
to stimulate the economy.
yeah,
And they inject so much money into the
yeah,
economy, but they can't get to their like target inflation rate because I don't exactly know what it is. May,
too much
maybe it's just like a
spending. Well,
Japanese mindset because like uh we just don't. I guess we spend that much money compared to
yeah,
other nations. I
yeah.
guess.
I remember hearing the yen like dropped, like
Yeah, that
was
was
being
a.
super devalued. Yeah, and then people were like trying to what's it called when people like not short it, and there were some people were trying to do something that I don't know, with the yen, some with their dollar, from like Americans though, they were trying to,
There's
I
a
don't know, do
basically
some.
what during that thing that name that's a whole nother cool topic.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll briefly go over it from what I know, but basically, so Japan's interest rates were very low and often it was negative, right? So
Mhm.
that means like they're paying you to borrow money. They're like, please
Yeah,
take money,
yeah.
please,
Is that
right?
crazy? It's so crazy.
So what these bigger institutional players from America and I'm sure other countries too
Yeah,
were
yeah.
doing, they would borrow Japanese yen from Japan,
Yes.
convert it into
Exchange it, right?
dollars,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
buy like very stable like bonds at like 4%.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then they'll take the spread, which is literally like the 4%, and then pay back the debt because it's much cheaper, right? So they were kind of creating like infinite money through that way. And then, I mean, let alone the T bills that track inflation,
Mm-hmm.
that was trading at like that was giving like 6 to 9% at the time. So like you're collecting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Imagine like you're doing this with billions of dollars, so you're creating a
What,
lot of
dude?
money.
Yes, yes.
But but then you have bad actors in the space
I've
as
always,
always like
always,
during
always.
good times
Yeah,
these good
always.
strategies there's always people that get super greedy, but instead of trading those like super safe assets that kind of guarantees money,
Yeah.
they started to bet on like super
Mm,
speculative assets.
yeah.
And then those are much more susceptible to interest rate changes and like
Yo,
the exchange rates and stuff
right.
like that. And in the summer of 2024, I remember like watching. I was in Japan at the time actually for work, and then it was like one of the biggest drop in the Nikkei. Nikkei is like the S&P 500 of the Japanese stock market. It was
Okay,
like the
okay.
biggest drop in like
Like
the
ever.
history or like
Yeah.
in the last 50 years or something
Jesus.
crazy, right? And they kind of looked into it, but basically the Japanese Federal Reserve equivalent, they raised interest rates by like 0.25%. So understand the minuscule percentage that they increased it by, and this whole thing broke.
Jesus
Where
Christ.
the yen rate went down, which is good. The Japanese yen to US dollars went down.
Mhm.
So the Japanese yen became more powerful,
Right.
right? So with that, that means that to pay back the Japanese yen, you have to pay more dollars to,
Exactly, and
right?
that's yep.
So now they're making
They're
less
like,
money.
"Oh, yep."
And then so now these people now if they're in a bad situation, they have to sell their assets to cover this debt.
Mhm.
So now people started selling these stocks and it was kind of created a spiral that affected the US
Mhm.
stock market. And
Yeah, that's
then
okay, yeah, I would've
yeah, so
never
that's
been
the
able to explain it.
premise of what
Yeah.
happened. It's basically there was like an infinite money glitch situation
Right.
and then people try to take advantage of it, try to get greedy. It's just another tale of all times, right?
Jeez, yeah, I remember I have far less understanding that, but yeah, I remember people trying to like borrow in an exchange for the US dollar, and I'd be super interested if I to like know somebody that did that and like hear their thought or their experience because that's I mean that's so wild. Like you said, it's just a classic case of I mean I guess greed and like I mean I get the what was trying to be done, but
I do want to kind of go back into MMT, and I do want to cover
yeah,
one
that's
more
the
thing
point.
though. Um, but this is something I want to bring up, but I can't elaborate on too much because my knowledge in this part is not up to date, I guess.
Yeah.
But one of the worries with MMT that I have is I get it. Like, we're looking at the lens from helping the American people with money
Hmm.
creation
Hmm.
through services, pretty much, and controlling inflation. That's the two like big pieces of MMT.
What you said, helping with money creation through services?
Yeah, like you create money so you can afford like these services for the American people, which is might be to create better roads, create hospitals, create benefits. That's what the MMT is after,
Okay.
right?
I interpreted that different when you said it, but okay.
But then I'm thinking like think of the US dollar as like that's the macro within the United States, but think about it from like a global scale. Like United States dollar is regardless of it's changing or not, it's still the reserve currency of the world, right?
Yeah.
And still, I mean, with that, like we still have the petrodollar, like all oil. I know it's going away from it, but like we still trade oil in dollars and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And countries have to hold the dollar as the reserve currency. There's demand on the U.S. dollar from that perspective, but a lot of currencies fail because like people think like people as in like bigger players and even countries they think like something fishy is happening with that currency, I guess. And we seen that with various countries. I can't I can't name I can't give you examples, but throughout history countries have realized that other countries were doing sketchy stuff with their money and they look into it and it is like a fraudulent scheme that
Yeah.
they're running and then kind of tanks that currency
Mhm.
into nothing pretty much. And I think we saw that with the Thai baht, and then
Mm.
there was like a whole thing that happened in the East Asian part of the part of the world. But what I'm worried about is let's say we go through the full implementation of take drink the pill sort of
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
MMT, and I'm scared that even if we control inflation, like the world loses faith in the United States dollar as like a reserve currency.
Hmm.
And if
That's
that
a great
spiral
point.
happens and goes in a bad direction, like and we somehow lose the status of the world reserve currency,
Oh, that's
that's
awful.
going to take a bigger, super big, not good toll on the American people, American like the country, people, and the currency. It's not nothing's going to be good about it. So that is one thing. Like I can't tell you like exactly how currencies are valued um, in relation to other currencies, but that is one thing that like I'm just thinking logically, if we
Mm.
start creating unlimited amount of money, other countries would be like, "Whoa, like your dollar's not worth as much
Yeah.
anymore. We don't trust the dollar because you guys are doing stuff like this." So that's like another thing that I kind of worry about. And, I don't know why I'm worrying about it. I'm not going to be able to do anything about it, but like,
No, bro, that's over here though, and that's a super good point. Like that's as macro as it gets. Looking at it from the global scale, kind of like that, which we really hadn't really touched on. And in that, you just said you were like, I don't know, said something like, I don't know what gives the dollar value, and well, I mean, we've kind of talked about it before, but I was watching a video where a guy simplified it to or whoever. He was like, the US dollar is important. He kind of labeled it as importance because it's agreed upon and we pay taxes with it.
mhm,
And kind of what you just said shows that, I mean, obviously within the United States, right? Like it's a piece of paper. We can print it, which we talked about on other podcasts, is that scarcity is an element of value. Like when something like I'm into like art and I'm trying to get into the art collection space, and things are considered valuable when depending on who's the creator, right? And how many of them are there. If it's a one of one, like price goes up, you know what I mean? So from the dollar perspective, if yeah, there's so many. Well, one, it's the agreed upon part, right? Like it is the reserve. Like it's the little like the go-to currency.
mhm,
So it's highly agreed upon. And what you're proposing is that if we generate it at these high levels, and then now it's like skeptical, or that agreement on it decreases, like then, like you said, that's when I think that the part of what, yeah, the dollar starts to lose its value. And that's layered on top of printing so much where it like actually devalues the dollar, but now less people are believing in it and agreeing
mhm.
on it, and it's less widely accepted. Like that also is going to devalue the dollar. And then saying like, because that's what we pay taxes on, and um, taxes are, we got to pay like federal taxes.
Yeah.
So
I
for
I
obvious
also
reasons, that's
I think like I guess looking into the whole money thing, like that's going to naturally come up, but that is pretty interesting, right? Like as the government is a money issuer, money
yes.
creator,
I was gonna bring this up.
and the people inside that country is the money user,
Yes.
and it just I don't it's not I don't want to say it's interesting, or it is interesting, but it's fascinating to think about it. Like government is this money creator, and they create they create the not the
Yeah.
value, but like a demand to use dollars because we must pay them in
Yes, in
dollars.
these dollars that
I
we
was like,
yeah.
because I did think about this, like maybe 5-10 years ago randomly, like why can't we just start using another currency? Right? Like I guess like there's like a whole trust and systems in place for United States dollars already, or like any other currency in
Mhm.
that respective country. But like, why can't we start using Bitcoin to transact? We just
Yeah.
randomly one day, right? But then, right, like
'Cause
ultimately
you
at the
can't
end of the day, unless you pay
t
taxes in dollars, you're
right.
gonna go to jail. So
Right.
like you must, it's literally like holding a gun to your head and be like, hey, you must use the
You
dollar,
yeah,
pretty much.
right.
Oh, oh man, okay.
Wait,
We want
before you leave that, are you standing on the monies the people are users and the government are creators?
no, go ahead.
Okay,
It
yeah.
sounds like
So on that note, um, and us like looking into this, it was saying that we are the money users and our financial freedom is limited by debt, but the government as the money creators, like and yeah, we have debt, like we have debt to other countries, but it's also fascinating that, to your point, it's just another way of looking to the point you just said. We literally create the money and create the money which you need, and essentially create the demand for that money. So although money is money, like it doesn't change per entity, but it means something, or kind of means something different from the users, the people, and the creators, the government. Although like money is money. So me wrapping my head around that is like kind of hard for me to wrestle with that concept, or it's just something I never heard. It's like so simple, but also so profound. Where and then it makes me analyze our debt differently. Like, what is the significance of our debt if we can? I get internal debt, but like if we owe other countries, we're indebted to them.
Just print it away, bro.
Just
Print
print,
it
you know what I
away.
mean? Like, what? It's just so thought provoke. Like, something's not adding up.
Right.
And
I
that's
mean,
why this is so nuanced. And it's like
that's why.
we can
Yeah.
talk about MMT and sure how it affects at a personal level, but like you said, there's the global. How does it affect other countries? How does it affect the debt?
Yeah.
Like, which is why I say I can't. Maybe me. I don't have all the knowledge, but you know, we did a little research and just even like talking about it out loud helps. But I feel like there's, like you said, my gut. There's secondary or tertiary effects where I'm not confident in yet. The theory is super fascinating. It's kind of like we talked about UBI, Universal Basic Income. I think we did that a couple
Yeah.
episodes ago.
Wait, have you?
Where,
Wait,
dude, I gotta
UBI. Like, Africa's starting to implement it now.
universally.
Yeah. There's a big
All of
experiment going
is
on in
there like a country
Africa.
or like
Oh
all?
man, keep talking because I'm gonna look
Dude,
it
I
up.
have another podcast, a podcast to send you that it's not about UBI, but it references UBI, and I want to get your thoughts on it. But it's similar to I have similar thoughts in hearing MMT comparing it to UBI, where it's like I get it, I get the intent, and it's like I want to be all in, but which is on me. All right, I just need to do more research, more conversations. That's the fun of it, but it's like fascinating but scary at the same time. And just what I personally, like you said, if I had to choose right now, wouldn't necessarily be all in for those reasons. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
I did not hear that about Africa.
Okay. So yeah, this was like late 2024. It started making some, I guess, articles and news, and I just like, when I was looking this up, like I came across the channel that talked about it. I was like, oh, like
Just
that's
clicked on
interesting
it.
because
Yeah.
we talked about it.
Right.
But yeah, it says South Africa is
Hmm.
experimenting with this universal basic income, and this says it's for people ages 18 to 59,
So they did do it age limit, which remember we kind of talked about
but
that.
indexed to the upper bound of poverty line. So I guess it's not
Mm.
everyone.
Or is it everyone, but you get different amounts based on that, proximity to the poverty
Yeah,
line.
but it could be that too.
But basically, it's not just one flat rate. I get,
Yeah, so it's not. I
Yeah.
guess it wouldn't be universal basic income
Ye-
because there are some. But then
Some,
yeah, it
but
would
that's
be
probably like the
interesting.
closest thing to UBI
Yeah.
we've seen. Yeah,
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, yeah, we'll see
would
how
be-
this works.
yeah.
But another thing that I came across looking stuff up, and I thought this was so interesting and ironic. But like what fiat means, right?
Yes, it's like
What does fiat currency mean?
the exchange of um like a physical currency that you use as a mean of exchange.
But what's different than a
It's
regular currency?
it's backed by I don't know something.
Regular currency is, right?
Yes.
So therefore, fiat currency isn't backed by any physical good.
Yeah.
Do you know what the word fiat in Latin
I
means?
absolutely do not.
So, fiat, the word fiat, which is used in fiat currency, comes from Latin word, and then it means an authoritative. Oh my god, an authoritative, or an arbitrary. Dude, I cannot say nothing.
Yeah, arbitrary.
Arbitrary order. Basically,
An authoritative
it
or
means
arbitrary?
because I said so.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just so ironic that we call it
So words have
fiat
meaning. It's
currency
always
because it's not backed by anything. If we lost the value of transaction, it's just a piece of paper,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the day, the government is just saying, "Hey, I told you to use it,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
therefore
yeah.
you must use it."
Yeah.
So I was just like, I thought it was just so funny.
Which goes back to the value, which is why it's just agreed upon,
Yeah.
and we have to pay taxes with it.
Yep.
Like, there's no, I don't know, intrinsic value, which
Yeah,
I mean, there
intrinsic.
probably,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I do want to I do want to clarify one thing that you said earlier. You said you want to you want to get into the art collecting space.
yeah.
But my understanding is that you already do own some art.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
What do you have?
It's a like the name of it. It's by Takashi Murakami, which you can appreciate. Japanese artist,
Uh-huh.
old dude, super eccentric. Um, it's called Fresh Blood.
Fresh blood
Mm-hmm.
painting.
It's a lithograph, technically.
A what does that mean?
Yeah, it's the type of way it's printed. So remember I was telling you, like, if there's a one of one, it's a limited edition, which means there are multiple of it, but the edition of it is limited. Which again, that scarcity piece gives it value, and the creator is super huge. He's like known as the Andy Warhol of our time. And yes, that piece right there. Yes, there's 300 copies in circulation.
Okay, so yours is 1 out of 300.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen
Okay.
his art styles, like these,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah. The
smiley
sunflower bomb or
flowers.
whatever. It's super popular. That's probably like the most popular of his like images. He does some like
Yeah.
super like raunchy stuff too, but it's
Okay.
always very flamboyant, like very colorful. And for like he's like an older dude, and his stuff is very like useful and playful.
What's the I mean, like, at least from a money side, like, what's the purpose behind, like, are you trying to collect art for your personal satisfaction,
So
or are you trying
I
to
generally like art. It has
Mhm.
very little to do with the value of it, and a lot to do with um I like to express myself through art and in art interpretation. And literally my phone background right now says "In Art We Trust," but
Oh,
it's
interesting.
just it's an expressive way to connect, to understand. Like, art has been around throughout the ages. Like, if you like, there's historic art where you could probably help understand those civilizations if you like analyze the art, or you can understand people better through their
Mm.
expressions of art. It's just, I find a lot, like, I like words and like poetry and stuff. It's kind of like, like freestyling, like that's an rap hip hop. That's an art form to me. So I like art. That's a physical form I like, but I enjoy art in like a bunch of
You
different
are very good at that. You're
ways.
very talented.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. In one way, because there's no, I don't know. Would you say there's on a personal level, there's one right way to manage finances? Is that a just? I know
Man,
you can go into it, but like, true or false? The statement is there is
no,
one right way
false,
to do
false,
finances. That's false,
false.
right? I would agree. In a way, less abstract, and there's definitely blueprints and like good habits, I think, that are agreed upon in the financial space, right? But like, it could be an art of like how you manage money, or depending on what concepts you use,
Mm.
like that. Like we talked about, like infinite banking, or what, like, there's so many things out there, but that can be an art of how you analyze, and you get creative with overlaying certain loans you take or whatever. Like, that could be an art form.
Mhm.
Like there's ways to get creative in the space of finance as well. But yeah, man, I think it's cool to collect and just build my collection, have different artists. So, I mean, not to take away from the MMT topic too much, the reason I got this piece specifically, right? We lived in Japan 3 years. I have
Mhm.
an extreme deep appreciation for Japan and Japanese culture. One of my best friends being Japanese, IEU.
Yeah.
Just a lot of things tied. And so to like capture the culture, it has like a modern twist on it. Um, it just like reminded me of like our time in Japan. So it, for a lot of reasons, I got it. But I would be lying if I said a little piece of me doesn't acknowledge the fact that it's going to gain value over time. And if I sell it, which again, probably won't, I might, but if I sell it, I'll probably make money on it.
Mhm.
Or then, if I pass it down, it would just be something cool to have in my family.
Mm.
But yeah.
Can you tokenize it? make it into an NFT and destroy the original piece?
Yes, but someone that also owns, I mean, another, like, yeah, but what would be, it wouldn't, because, I feel like the value of an NFT is like it being the only one, you know what I mean? Like,
No, but it can be the only one out of
of my,
300.
that's what I'm saying, right? So I was gonna say anybody owner of the other 300 could make it, or like a gallery that owns one of the other ones could make multiple NFTs of one they have, and then you could dilute the NFT space more because you can make multiple NFTs off of one piece. Even though that
You're
kind of
not
defeats the purpose of
no,
an NFT.
the only one will be truly backed by that one piece.
True. Like, is there like fractional NFT? Like, what if I made 2 NFTs of my one piece? I feel like
Well,
that defeats the purpose of
then your
NFT.
NFT wouldn't have as much value because we know that there's 2 created. The value is there because
Right.
only one is there created from the
That,
actual piece.
correct. Yes, but there's
But
nothing
you
stopping
can
me
create
from,
one
right.
and sell me half of one. Does that make sense?
Half of an NFT, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can have multiple ownership, like shares in a company, like
Yeah,
multiple people.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Which is why I think I'd rather have the real one, because there's like one tangible real one. I mean, I guess somebody could have like put money up. Like if you help me buy it, like we both could share ownership, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't know.
so it'll be something like
But there's like certificates of ownership. Like I have a certificate that's on the back that's signed that says like I am the owner, kind of like a deed to a house or something. So
that
I
could
don't,
be inside the NFT as well.
correct.
You can have
Yeah,
that deed.
yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I
okay.
don't know.
Um going back to MMT, um we, I know we talked a lot about the whole I mean, the whole MMT thing like became really popular, like I said, during the stimulus rounds of COVID.
Sure.
And one thing I do want to kind of loop in, this is not necessarily related to the MMT topic, but it is more current news, and I think it is definitely interesting to talk about. And we didn't talk about this prior, so I'm going to kind of surprise
Mm,
you here. But what do you think? Have you heard about the Doge dividend?
no, I
Dude,
haven't.
you are
Is this like we're
you're
talking
not on
like
social media enough.
yeah, I'm not hardly at all. Is this
Okay.
like a typical dividend, like a stock dividend, like a payout dividend you're talking about? Or is
They
this
can put whatever name into it, but it's basically a
like
stimulus,
mm,
but it's unique. So there's a lot of controversies because, oh man, it's so dumb. But okay, you're aware of the Doge entity,
mhm. Department of
and
Government Efficiency. Yeah.
yep, and basically what they're claiming is, they found they got rid. You heard all about the firing frenzy that happened,
Yep. Mhm.
and there's a they're nitpicking a lot of contracts to renegotiate the contracts, um, pretty much cutting a lot of the wasteful spending,
Yep.
and they're kind of going like sector by sector,
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
department by department type of thing.
yeah.
And their claim is that in the first 30 days of Doge, they saved the government $55 billion, I believe. That's what their claim is. But the controversy is there because they say, "Oh, like it's not 55 billion, it's only 8 billion, blah 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 blah." But I'm just like, dude, I mean, we're saving money. Like who cares, right? Like whether it's 5 billion or 55 billion or whatever. And their projection is by the end of the year meaning 365 days, not the calendar year,
Okay.
but from how
300.
Doge is operating that
Okay.
year. They want to save, I believe it said like $1.4 trillion or
Mm,
something like that.
okay.
And then what they want to do is with saving. I don't know the exact amount. Let's say 1.4, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. But they want to take 20% of that money saved of $1.4 trillion or whatever, and then they want to give American tax paying families a stimulus check of $5,000.
One time, like
Just one time special dividend type
I didn't
um
I didn't hear that.
stimulus.
I did watch that video you sent me too about the Doge stuff.
Oh yeah, that will,
I had
dude,
to watch it. I
that's
had to watch it
crazy.
twice.
Yeah, basically, I
But
sent him the video of Joe Rogan and the
yeah, Joe
USAID,
Rogan.
how
Yeah,
the
USA.
crazy amount of corruption in government spending,
Yeah,
and it was just
yeah.
making me mad on how what dumb
That was
stuff they were spending money on. Anyway,
enlightening. But
um,
okay, continue though. You
but
bring up
yeah,
that point to
with
say
the
what?
Doge dividend, and a lot of people were getting it confused. Like, I'm
Oh,
sure,
that is the Doge dividend, like that 5,000. That's what we're.
yeah, that's the Doge dividend,
Got you. Got you.
and then. I mean, a lot of people there's just so much rumors and fake news around. They're like, oh, like they're sending $5,000 to every American. No one ever said that. It was $5,000 to tax paying families.
Yeah.
So whether you're single or a family of 17,
Yeah.
you get $5,000 check.
You know what's
That's it.
funny? When you say like sending 5,000 to everybody, and when you first said they're basically recouping 1.4 trillion, I was like, it's interesting. That sounds like it almost be enough to fund a universal basic income, or at least start a
I
conversation.
mean, yeah, it's
And
the
if you recoup
savings.
welfare, but
Yeah, yeah,
obviously there would
yeah.
have to be a lot of number crunching going in behind that.
But basically, with the math they did, man, I want to say it was like 79 million families that would be eligible under this for this 5,000.
Mhm.
And then when you do that amount, it's only 20% of the money that they saved. So that's why they're calling
That's
it
why
like,
they say
hey,
10.
like portion of the money saved, like uh the previous government entities leadership has frauded you.
Mhm.
So we want to give you some money back.
Mhm.
And I don't even know how there's controversy because like the government is saying, "Hey, we messed up on spending. We want to give you money back," and people are pissed about it. It's
Yeah.
like,
It might be because how are they recuperating that 1.4 trillion? A lot of it is, I don't know, I'm gonna say a lot of it, but some of it is probably paying less people due to this
yeah, you're right.
firing frenzy or whatever. And I think that's where a lot of the disdain is coming in, because it's like,
But don't you think that's necessary? Necessary? That's a good thing to do, regardless of we're getting this 5,000 or not.
to analyze, yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole point, like to analyze the inefficiencies and
I mean, I worked in
it,
government. You
yeah,
work in
yeah,
government.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You see
Oh yeah,
the
don't get me wrong.
crazy amount of inefficiencies.
Yeah. I don't know. And again, like you said, I'm not on social media a lot. I mean, I know the big headline stuff, but I think there might be. And then I was talking to some of my family too. I was like, a lot of times things need to be ugly before they get better. And I
Hmm.
understand, especially being in the military. Like, I get the harsh truths, and like I got all that. But maybe the way in which some of this is happening are just seem kind of absurd to me. On that note, and I don't want to get too into like, well, at least this current event I'm about to say. Do you see the CNO and the like Joint Chief of Staff?
Yeah, they got
Heard of that?
fired.
Yeah,
I don't
just
exactly. I couldn't find why they were getting fired, but I just know that they were getting fired.
and I don't. Yeah, I just, for that to be just, it seems random to me again, because I don't follow closely. Maybe there's something done, but in conjunction with everything, I was just like, maybe this will be one of those things we won't know it works, or until it's like time has passed and we can assess.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
Like I do want to say like yeah, like I
but
feel
I'm just
like
like, it's super abrupt.
not the CNO and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but like at least for a Doge thing, like I think okay, I get it. It's not implemented perfectly,
Yeah, and
right?
nobody, right.
But
That's why
then
government's hard. I think in politics is
I
yeah.
feel like we're trying to do the right thing. Like, I mean, just look at the message behind Doge. Just the message. I'm like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
their government is
If it,
inefficient, and we are tax-paying people. So therefore, they have a duty to make it right. That's the premises behind the Doge movement, right? Not the movement, but like the actual. I don't even know. It's not even a department, but like
Yeah,
you
it's
know what I
not.
mean, right? But then like people are hating on that. Like, bro, just let it.
Yeah,
We're recording this February 23rd. The president and his team has been in office for literally 1 month.
not even a month.
Like,
Oh,
give
it has been
him
a
a
month. Yeah.
break. Like, let him do his thing, because we got 3 years and 11 months left of him.
Yeah, I mean, we have no choice.
Yeah, like we don't have. Yeah, like the people
Yeah.
are complaining about everything when it just let everything fall into place. And maybe
Yeah.
at the 2-year mark, we can actually judge whether he's doing a good job or not. Doge is actually working or not. But yeah, it's crazy the divide in this country right now.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah, no, the divide is significant. I mean, yeah, I don't want to invalidate anybody's, because I think a lot of people, more than previous policies where this is being felt in like the everyday household and stuff like that, more than, again, we've seen with like historic policy changes, this is like very abrupt, very direct. So there's going to be like personal fallout for that, or like people's lives are going to be affected. But kind of like we said, does it suck? Yes. Can I assess if like Doge is succeeding? And I don't know. And then even that can only be judged based on what the intent is. Kind of like we looked at welfare. We're like, yeah, welfare is for a great cause, but like me and you assessed it to be failing because of what its actual intent like was, and it's actually like perpetuating the cycle of kind of keeping people down at the impoverished level or whatever. So kind of similar to that. So to tie the Doge, and I was also gonna say we could do like a whole other topic on the Doge thing and
I
stuff.
do want to talk about Doge and just
So
government
we'll get there.
stuff.
Then I'm trying to relate. Is there any parallels to MMT
Yeah,
and Doge as we wrap it up? Like,
I do
since
think
it's
there's parallels.
so, you know what I mean, it's so focused on efficiencies. Like, is MMT in the theory of of modern, like, monetary
Theory.
yeah, it is a theory. Yeah, the theory of modern monetary theory. Um, in printing in excess to kind of like we said, and then keeping the demand and supply proportionate, combating inflation. Is this an efficient concept? But like I said, it's again in theory promotes equality. I get, at least for like borrowing. So now that we're talking about Doge, I'm trying to think. I'm like thinking that within this conversation, like,
It, my
is it
bottom
efficient concept?
line, my bottom line is you're right. Is it efficient? And on paper it could be,
Yeah, yeah.
but the the tie in with the Doge and the MMT is that at the end of the day, the person or entity controlling the important parts of this MMT
Mm-hmm.
theory
Mm-hmm.
is government, and it's not going to work well. Just like the welfare system. Welfare system is a great idea,
Mm-hmm.
but the implementer of the welfare system is the government.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, naturally, it's going to be very inefficient. And same thing, if the government is the one through fiscal policy is controlling the inflation to combat the money print, like the money printer, times 10,000 brought on by MMT, I don't think it's going to work. My personal belief.
Well, you said to combat the money printing, they would be the
No, they will be
oh
the money printer, but they
yeah.
also combat the inflation
Okay. You said okay.
through fiscal policy.
Yeah. Yep.
And I just don't think they're going to be able to pull it off, to be honest.
Yeah. Right. That's what. Yep. And
You would have to literally, like, it would literally have to be like a dictatorship for this to work. Like, what government says goes,
go. Yeah.
including supply and demand. Which I mean, in the United States, like how our government's set up, it's just not gonna. I don't want to say it's not gonna work, but it'd be very, very, very difficult to work. And I don't know I'm leaning towards no, but I don't know if it's going to be more advantageous than how we have today, where we have a fiscal lever and a monetary
Right.
monetary lever, and then they work together to try to combat this
Yeah,
thing.
true. Well said. And then yeah. Okay, good. I think that's a good tie-in.
Yeah. Hey, I do want to. I'll let you wrap it up, but I do want to bring up, if you're interested in the MMT just topic, this there's a book. It's by Stephanie Kelton, and she's like the leading. I guess she's like the leading person in this space of MMT. I guess she's like the queen of MMT.
The
But
MT Queen.
she wrote a book called "The Deficit Myth: Modern Monetary Theory and the Birth of the People's Economy." So
Mm-mm.
obviously, it's gonna be from a perspective from someone that supports
Bro,
MMT.
MMT.
But if you're interested in it, that's the book. And it's actually it's probably one of something that I'm gonna read as well, because it is interesting, and I do want to have understanding of macroeconomics better, because I know I don't know too much about it. So if you're interested, I was looking at it on Amazon, so it's available there.
Heck yeah. Love a good book tie-in. I don't have any references other than a bunch of YouTube videos I watched. No, dude, that's great. Again, I always want to emphasize, like, I learn so much, and it just helps develop my thoughts on these topics, which I think is a lot of, what we want to do. We want to introduce topics, we want to rebel them, we want to further thought and conversation, um, educate where we can. Yeah. So we talked about a lot on MMT, again, modern monetary theory. If you guys have any good sources, kind of like B just put out, or it's super nuanced. So we don't cover everything. I'm sure there's large lingering parts of MMT maybe that we missed, but certainly good to start the conversation again as it's recently popularized. And this is something that we could see being talked about more and more. It's good to just kind of be in the space of these conversations, maybe get a little more knowledgeable on it, um, just so you can be up to par. So that's all we got for you guys this week. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Your favorite two rebels here. That's all we got for you.